Hello, my name is James Chan. I live and work in Philadelphia. I am a beginner in Tai Chi. I'm learning Tai Chi because I would like to grow old in a healthy way and to live better physically. Recently, my contact in Malaysia, Mr. Edward Lim, alerted me to a calligraphy scroll written in 1971 by the Grandmaster Mr. Zheng Manqing. I showed this scroll to my Tai Chi teacher, Mr. Alan Zaklad, or Zag. Zag likes it very much, and so I would like to record a translation and interpretation of this poem, this calligraphy scroll, penned by Mr. Zheng. Mr. Zheng preferred to be called the professor. So from this moment on, I'll refer to Grandmaster Zheng Manqing as the professor. So I'm going to go through this interpretation by focusing on every single word and then giving their literal meaning and finally the contextual meaning so that everything becomes legible and understandable and hopefully also poetic. First of all, this Chinese character, 坐, meaning seat, meaning the seat at your desk. You're sitting at your desk, and to the right hand side, 右 is an inscription. So the three Chinese words, 坐, 右, 明 is an inscription that is placed on the right hand side of your desk where your seat is. And it also means that this is your personal motto, motto, your personal kind of exhortation to values that one believes in. So we can say that this is the professor's personal motto that he would like to live by. So let's go to the content, which of course was written in classical Chinese. Classical Chinese is tough for even many educated Chinese. I don't really know classical Chinese well enough. However, I got the support of my friend in California, Professor Kenneth Look, who's a Chinese linguist. And not only that, my friend Ken also discovered an essay written by Mr. Shr Jung in Taipei, Taiwan. And Mr. Hsu has a rather detailed article explaining the words and the meaning of this calligraphy scroll. So I am very thankful for Ken Look and for Mr. Hsu Cheng-mei for their help. So let's begin this 40-character calligraphy scroll. The first one, 手荣公. 手 means the arm or your hand. 荣 is to express, exudes. 公 is respectability. In other words, when you do Tai Chi, and even when you are not doing Tai Chi, even when you are walking in the street and meeting people, your hand gestures, your hand movement should express respectability. You respect yourself and you respect the people around you. 手荣公. 足荣重. 足 is your feet. Your feet should express, exude. 重 itself literally means heavy. But in this case, it means your feet are steady, sturdy, and that they are rooted. So 足荣重, meaning when you do Tai Chi or when you live on a day-to-day basis, even if you are floating about in walking in the street, people kind of feel that your feet are firmly planted on the ground. 要称, these four Chinese characters are very meaningful. The first two, first of all, the two pairs are exactly the same in this case, but they are very different in their meanings. 要 meaning you need to be. 称 is you propped up. 要称 you must propped up. And then the other 要称 means your lumbar support. You have to prop up your lumbar support. Shu is meaning to erect, to become straight, to hoist. So it's like hoisting a statue or a column so that the column is vertically straight. Qi liang, the two words mean your spine. So the whole thing, yao cheng shu, ji liang, meaning you must, especially when you do Tai Chi, for people who are martial art experts, they all will prop up their lumbar and also to make sure that their bodies are completely erect, completely straight. Now the next sentence, 要认有忠言无纵. This is not an easy poetic sentence to interpret. Yao here means you need to, much like this yao. You need to, you must. Ren is a rare Chinese word. It means, ren refers to something that is tough to say, tough to talk about, kind of almost unspeakable. And the reason why it is unspeakable is because when we say things, we may mean one thing, but the listener may think of something else. So when the professor uses this word, he means in our speak, we have to think before we talk, before we open our mouth, because whatever we say may be undiplomatic or may even be hurtful to other people. So 要认, you have to know that things that are very difficult to say, then you have to have 有中. 有 is to have 中. 中 literally means the middle or the center, but 有中 here means you have to be considerate. You have to place yourself at the center of understanding the context, understanding who you are talking to, what the situation is. Therefore, you select a central or appropriate way to deliver what is very difficult to say. 言无纵, yan is to speak your words. Wu is not. Zhong is don't get overboard, don't get unhinged. So, one more time, 要认, for something that is difficult to say, 有中, be careful, pick the medium, don't go overboard, don't get carried away, and your words, 言无纵, should not be unhinged. In short, think before you open your mouth. The next phrase, 处心要宽厚. 处 meaning the way you place, the position of your heart. 心, 处心. Now again, we cannot literally translate Chinese characters, particularly in Chinese, in classical Chinese, because the context here, meaning your heart, this is related to how to talk with people. Before you open your mouth, you have to make sure that your heart, meaning your attitude, your position, your thought process, you have to make sure that your heart should be yao, meaning must be or should be. Quan is broad, hou is thick. Now, what does it mean by position your heart so that you become broad and thick? You can, again, literally translate these words. What they mean is you should treat people with broad, meaning you are generous, you are charitable, and you're compassionate, you are forgiving. Quan ho, you're generous and you are compassionate and forgiving, so that, and the key of this sense, which of course it's not easy to translate, but in plain language, it means before you open your mouth, before you take any action, make sure that your heart is in the right place, that you already decided to be charitable, to be generous, and to be forgiving. Next sentence, 为人要忠恕. As a person, 为人, your character, the way you manage yourself and other people, 为人, this is about self-cultivation. 为人要, you must, 忠 is loyal, 恕 is to be forgiving. You, 为人, try to develop in the course of cultivating oneself. Make sure that we all are loyal and forgiving to people, even if you know that people are wrong and they are not right, but you don't want to really be abusive, you don't want to be vituperative against people, don't behave like a boor or a bitch. Uh, and so that is what is the meaning and spirit of 为人要忠恕, be loyal and be forgiving. 能忍太虚温，能忍能 you are able, 忍 is to be tolerant. This word 忍 is used all over China, and sometimes it is too widely translated as endure people or endure a situation. But I think that a better translation is to be tolerant. Again, it involves that you have the ability to be tolerant. Well, tolerant of what? Tolerant of people's prejudices, tolerant of people's resentment or people's biases, or tolerant of people's ideas and values that you don't agree with. And even in trying to be tolerant, your attitude, Tai is your attitude. Xu must be wen mild, meaning even if you tolerate people's sayings and actions, your manner should be mild. Don't, again, get carried away. Don't be hostile. The final sentence of this calligraphy scroll, according to Mr. Xu, is a key one. That's 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Chinese characters. 改过 meaning to correct your error, correct your mistake. 改 is to correct. 改过在 this is the word means is, lies in. 静 is quiet. 虑 meaning contemplation. Sometimes the two words 静虑 can mean meditation, but I think it is more appropriate here to mean we need to correct our flaws in moments of private rumination, private contemplation. And there is more about these 5 characters because, according to my interpretation, the professor is trying to remind himself and, of course, remind his disciples and students of students that as a gentleman, as a mensch, as a Brahman, as somebody who is educated and in high society, in terms of moral conduct, we should develop the habit of ruminating or thinking each day about what we have done. And in thinking about what we do, we also want to know what we have done right and what we have done wrong. And by going through this self-diagnosis, we are able to see our flaws, our failings, and also after realizing or having the courage to realize, to see, almost like looking in the mirror naked. You know where you're good, you know where you're bad. And you have the courage and you are able in private contemplation to try to correct yourself. And this poem, Xin Hai, that's the end. That's a total of 40 words. And Xin Hai are 2 Chinese words that refer to 1971 in the traditional Chinese lunar calendar. 10月10日, 10th moon 10th day, meaning October 10th. So 1971 October 10th. This date is important because October 10th is the founding date of Chiang Kai-shek's Chinese Nationalist Party, as opposed to October 1st, which is the date of founding of the Mao Zedong, of Chinese Communist Party. And I am guessing that in the year 1971, the professor must have seen fit to return to Taipei and write this calligraphy scroll as some kind of a patriotic, loyal tribute to the founding of the Chinese Nationalist Party. 写于 written at Taipei, this is Taipei, Shr Jung, 太极拳学会. Shih Chung is the name of the Tai Chi boxing. 学社 means association, academy, or the school. And Shih Chung is the name for this association. These two words, Shih Chung, come out of the ancient text in Chinese history called the I Ching. I'm sure that many of you know about I Ching. The word Shi means time. Zhong is in the center, almost like 有中, yan wu zhong. This zhong and that zhong are the same. But here we cannot interpret literally because Shi Zhong basically means just like the ancient text doctrine of the mean. That means when you deal with people, when you handle and manage things, try to make sure you don't go extremes. You carefully weigh what is in front of you in terms of people or things and make the appropriate actions or say the appropriate words. That means be very prudent in dealing with things. So 时中 basically the ability to do the right thing because you understand the situation in its totality. So Man-ch'ing, the first name of the professor, Zheng Man-ch'ing. Cheng is 并称 means yours sincerely or sincerely yours. Cheng is the Chinese word. You find this word very common in the Chinese culture. Cheng is made up of two radicals. The left radical is yan, a word that means to talk. The other part, the right radical, means completion. In other words, your words match your deeds. In short, sincerity. So yours sincerely. This must be the chop of the Professor Cheng Man-ch'ing, because in Chinese society, once you compose a poem, a scroll, or any artwork, you put your chop, your insignia, your seal, you normally in deep red color, Chinese persimmons red. Now, this other chop, I don't know. It could be the organization chop, because sometimes a chop or a seal also represents the person who owns the artwork. Thank you very much. I hope that you find this translation or interpretation interesting and useful.